اتخذ الغنم. The Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam encouraged us to keep the goats, to keep the sheep, to keep the rams. Alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, فَإِنَّ فِيهَا بَرَكَةً, because these goats, these sheep, these animals, they have lots of blessings with them. He also told us, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, he said, فَإِنَّهَا مِن دَوَابِ الْجَنَّةِ. He told us, alayhi salatu wasalam, that the goats, the rams, and the sheep will be from the kinds of animals we will find inside Al-Jannah. So they are honored. They are animals that carry along blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We read in the hadith yesterday, the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, regarding al-ghanam, regarding the goats, regarding the sheep, regarding the rams. He said, was sakinatu fi ahlil ghanam. Tranquility and humility, you find it fi ahlil ghanam. You find that those who rear goats, those who care for the sheep, those who care for rams and pay good attention to them, as Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu had encouraged Humayd ibn Malik to clean up his goats, to take care for them, to clean their places of stay, and in fact, he may observe nawafil in the places where goats rest. When a Muslim does this, Allah makes it a means of obtaining as-sakina. Allah makes it as a means of gaining calmness of the mind, tranquility, and rest of mind. I remember that those who handle depression, they say one of the things that those who fall in depression or who are gradually getting into these kinds of disturbances in their mind, from the things of benefits they can do is to clean up. And here in this hadith, the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam makes us understand that as-sakina, calm mindset, tranquility, wellness of the mind, you would find it fi ahlil ghanam. You would find it with those who care for goats, those who care for animals, those who care for sheep. I hope those of our brothers who are in psychiatry or who handle cases of mental disturbances, issues of sadness with the people and grief, helping them get out of these mind-boggling situations. I hope that they can research into this area, the area of the influence of rearing and caring for goats and sheep vis-a-vis obtaining a calm and a healthy, sound mind. What is the connection between these? I'm sure our brothers who study and sisters, Ummahat, who study psychology and psychiatry will inshallah find benefit in this study. The Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as-sakinatu fi ahli al-ghanam. As-sakinatu fi ahli al-ghanam. Those who care for goats and rams and sheep, they find rest of mind. Those who care for goats and rams and the sheep, they find as-sakina. This is from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. But under that, he had told us about those who care for camels. He said alayhi salatu wasalam, وَالْفَخْرُ وَالْخُيَلَاءُ فِي الْخَيْلِ وَالْإِبِلِ. الْفَخْرُ وَالْخُيَلَاءُ. Al-Fakhr is that the individual is so consumed in the perceived achievements that he has. He thinks he has a lot of wealth. He thinks he has a lot of knowledge, and so he becomes arrogant, looking down upon others. And that comes with al-khuyala. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu salam, these two issues, self-praise and looking down upon others, fi ahli al-khayli wal-ibil. You find it with those who care for camels and those who care for al-khayl, horses. Those who care for horses, who have horses, pay attention to horses, and those who pay attention to camels, they may be haughty and proud. These kinds of people, al-faddadin, they are people who own large heads of the camels and horses. Faddadun are those who have a lot of camels. Like we mentioned in class yesterday, a camel now will sell for about 1.2 million. Faddadun are those who have between 200 and 1,000 heads of camels. So if a unit is sold for 1.2 million and the man has 1,000, that is over 1.5 billion. If not far much more than that. So if a man, like the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, ahlil wabr, if a man who resides in remote areas, let's say in a village or a hamlet, he has 1,000 heads of camels. He knows that he's richer than many of the people in big cities. You have 1,000 heads of camels. Each of them is sold for 1.2 million. Or you have 500 horses. Each of them is sold for over 5 million. You know what you have in raw wealth, not imagined, not virtual, not in an account you have sent a credit alert. No, raw cash. That is what it is equivalent to. That you look at it right in front of your house. 1,000 camels. This is a lot of wealth. So the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, when a person is like this, living in a village without civilization and exposure, it is prone that this will push him into al-khuyala, it will push him into al-fakhru. One of the scholars says that this is the value of knowledge and exposure. Because the Prophet said that, alayhi salatu wasalam, regarding those who have this tremendous wealth and they are still resident in villages and in remote areas in the hamlets, that if they were people who were residents in the cities, resident in big grown places of civilization, they will see their likes. They will be exposed to knowledge. They will be exposed to exposure in life. They will be exposed to civility. They will be exposed to humility. And they will see their likes. That will not make them behave arrogant towards others. Because, of course, they will see that there are others who also have other means of wealth, other means of opulence and luxury. So they say this is evidence that one, residence in remote villages and hamlets is not something that Islam generally encourages. Inshallah, we'll come back to that in a clear-cut hadith from the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, where he discouraged that people live in remote hamlets and villages. He discouraged it alayhi salatu wasalam. We'll come back to that in one or two chapters after this chapter. So when a person has tremendous wealth and then he resides in remote areas, it's likely to make him become arrogant and look down upon the people, because the bulk of those he will see, the bulk of those he lives with, they are people who only live by going to the farm to obtain what they eat, and then they eat. They go to the farm to get what they eat before they can eat. And here he is having 1,000 heads of camels right in front of him. he is most likely going to look down upon those people. This is the hadith that we have looked at yesterday while talking about camels being a means of power, a means of influence, a means of al-ghalaba, authority over the rest of the people. The Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, وَالْفَخْرُ وَالْخُيَلَاءُ فِي أَهْلِ الْخَيْلِ وَالْإِبْلِ الْفَدَّادِينَ أَهْلِ الْوَبْرِ. If the people live in the cities and places of civilization, they are not likely to be arrogant because they have such large heads of camels. The hadith with which Al-Imām Al-Bukhāri follows that occurs as hadith 575. He said, rahimahullah, حدثنا عمرو بن مرزوق قال أخبرنا شعبة عن أمارة ابن أبي حفصة عن عكرمة عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال عجبت للكلاب والشاء إن الشاء يذبح منها في السنة كذا وكذا ويهدى كذا وكذا والكلب تضع الكلبة الواحدة كذا وكذا والشاء أكثر منها. Al-Imām Al-Bukhāri rahimahullah has mentioned this hadith as hadith 575. He mentioned it from his Shaykh Amr ibn Marzuq Abu Uthman al-Bahili, the Shaykh of Al-Bukhāri rahimahullah. In this isnad, in this hadith, the person from whom Al-Imām Al-Bukhāri has learnt this hadith was Amr ibn Marzuq Abu Uthman al-Bahili rahimahullah. He said, أخبرنا شعبة. He has received this hadith from that well-known scholar of hadith and sunnah, Shu'bah ibn al-Hajjaj rahimahullah, Abu al-Hajjaj al-Bistami al-Makki rahimahullah. He said, An Umara ibn Abi Hafsa. Umara ibn Abi Hafsa is Abu-Raūf. Abu-Raūf al-Basri. Rawh was a word that's in the Quran. Rawh, being hopeful. So this man is called Abu-Raūf, meaning Abu hopefulness, like Abu Raja. Rawh means what? Hopefulness. You anticipate goodness. So he is Abu-Raūf. And they were from the scholars of hadith who actually bore that name, Rawh. These are not ruh in terms of spirit or the soul. This is Rawh. Instead of the Ra having a fatha, it carries a dhamma. It is called what? Ruh. That is ruh. Soul, the mind, the human soul or spirit. But when you say Rawh, Rawh, you are talking about hopefulness and anticipation for goodness. So Umaratu ibn Abi Hafsa, he is Abu-Raūf al-Basri, is the one reporting from that well-known, eminent student of Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiyallahu anhuma, Ikrima al-Barbari. Al-Imām Ikrima al-Barbari was from North Africa, from amongst the Berbers. That's why he's usually referred to as what? Al-Barbari. Rahimahullah. Is reporting from his Shaykh, well known of him, Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiyallahu anhuma. Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiyallahu anhuma, was well known from the students of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. His father, Abbas, was an uncle of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. His mother was Lubaba, radiyallahu anha, and she was a sister to one of the wives of the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, whose name was what? Maymuna. Maymuna was the wife of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam wa radiyallahu anha. Her own sister was Lubaba. Lubaba was the wife of Abbas. Abbas and Lubaba were the parents of who? Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhum ajma'in. Abdullah ibn Abbas, one day the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam held him to himself as a little young boy. When the Prophet passed away, he was just about 10 to 12 to 13 years old. About 13 when he died, alayhi salatu wasalam. One day the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam held Abdullah ibn Abbas and he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, Allahumma faqihhu fi din. Oh Allah, give this boy a deep understanding of your religion. Allahumma allimhu al-kitab. Oh Allah, teach this boy the book Al-Quran. Oh Allah, teach this boy Al-Quran. So Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma grew up becoming one of the biggest scholars in the history of Islam. Radiyallahu anhu. He said, rahimahullah, ajibtu lil kilabi wa sha'i. I am so astonished. I think and I get amazed regarding a matter. What is that? If you compare the life of Al-Kilab, the dogs, Washa'i, and what? And the sheep, the goats, the rams. Compare the life of dogs. Compare it with the life of goats and the sheep, the rams. Look at these two groups of animals. The Shah is a general name that would also refer to the Ghanam. The Shah, the Ghanam, the sheep, the goats, they all fall under this category. As for the Kilab, he refers to dogs. So he was understanding, he looked at the life of dogs and the life of goats, sheep, rams, these animals. He looked at the two of them. Radiyallahu anhu. He said, Inna sha'a yuzbah minha fi sanati kada wa kada. Goats, rams, and the sheep, they are slaughtered in a year. They slaughter so large amounts of goats. How many goats do we slaughter per day across the world? How many rams do we slaughter daily across the world? How many sheep are slaughtered across the world daily? He said, radiyallahu anhu, inna sha'a yuzbah minha fi sanati kada wa kada. Fi sana, in a year, in a month. But he used a year. But let's look at it from daily slaughterings. Take a city, take Lagos for example. How many goats are slaughtered in Lagos daily? How many goats or sheep or rams all put together are slaughtered in Lagos weekly? How many goats or sheep or rams are slaughtered in Lagos monthly? Lagos State alone. How many are slaughtered across Lagos in a whole year? How is that? Allahu a'lamu bi'adadiha. Allah alone knows the actual amount of these animals. But the numbers will certainly be mind-boggling. I mean, mind-blowing. It will blow the minds up in terms of the huge number of these animals that are slaughtered in a year. He said, radiyallahu anhu, ajibtu lil kilabi wa sha'i. I continue to become amazed regarding the dogs and regarding the sheep and the rams and goats. Inna sha'a yuzbah minha fi sanati kadha wa kadha. The goats are slaughtered annually with a large number. They are slaughtered in large, huge numbers across the world. He said, radiyallahu anhuma, wa yuhda kadha wa kadha. And much more are slaughtered for the hadaya on the times of Hajj. So if you have 5 million pilgrims, no less than 4.5 million of the 5 million pilgrims will slaughter goats and rams. If you have 5 million pilgrims per year, no less than 4.5 million will slaughter their goats and rams. And if you have 1.5 billion Muslims, no less than a half of that, about 800 million Muslims will slaughter the rams during the times of Eid al-Adha. So you can see, apart from what we eat daily, how many of these goats, these sheep, these rams do we slaughter in a year? Just look at it during Eid al-Adha. How many are slaughtered? The large number is mind-blowing. Ibn Abbas said, radiyallahu anhuma, on the other hand, وَالْكَلْبُ تَضَعُ الْكَلْبَةُ وَالْكَلْبُ تَضَعُ الْكَلْبَةُ الْوَاحِدَةُ كَذَا وَكَذَا. وَالْكَلْبُ, on the other hand, as for the dog, تَضَعُ الْكَلْبَةُ الْوَاحِدَةُ كَذَا وَكَذَا. On the other hand, for the dogs, a dog, تَضَعُ الْكَلْبَةُ الْوَاحِدَةُ كَذَا وَكَذَا. One single dog, mother dog. I think that's what they refer to as a bitch. B-I-T-C-H. The mother dog is referred to as a bitch. And that's why they refer to those who are upon evil as bitches too. The mother dog, Ibn Abbas said, radiyallahu anhuma, تَضَعُ الْكَلْبَةُ الْوَاحِدَةُ كَذَا وَكَذَا. A single mother dog will deliver so large numbers. Maybe 10, maybe 7, maybe 8, maybe 11. The mother dog delivers a lot. وَالشَّاءُ, as for the goats, as for the sheep, مَا ذَلِكَ أَكْثَرُ مِنْهَا. If you go, you still see that the goats are large in number than the dogs. But how many dogs are slaughtered daily? If you go to communities where people eat dogs, may Allah protect us, like in the Far East, around Cross River, around Akwa Ibom, the dogs are a regular meal served in restaurants. But how many are those dogs slaughtered? How many of those who even reside in those localities prefer those dog food, the dog meal? How many? How many? So how many dogs are slaughtered? So because dogs, at a time when they give a delivery, they can deliver up to 10, they can deliver up to 9, and they deliver more regularly than the goats and sheep. Yet, how many dogs are slaughtered daily across the world? How many dogs are eaten daily across the world? Even those, the people of Shirk, who worship and slaughter dogs, how many do they slaughter daily? How many do they slaughter during their festivities? Yet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave barakat to the Ghanam. When it delivers, maybe 1, maximum 2. If it delivers 2, maybe 1 of them will pass away. But if well taken care of, maybe the 2 will survive. Let's say the maximum 3. But as for the dogs, from 7, 6, 7 up, 9, 10. And yet these ones are slaughtered every day. Yet they are far larger in number than the dogs. This hadith goes to make us understand the barakat that Allah has placed in the Ghanam. So he said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, فَإِنَّ فِيهَا بَرَكَةً. These Ghanam, these goats, these sheep, they contain a lot of blessings. From the evidences of their blessings is that a large number of them is slaughtered daily. A large number of them is slaughtered during Eid al-Adha. and yet they don't deliver except one or two. Despite this brief number at the time of delivery, Allah has still given them barakat. Allah gave them acceptance. Allah gave them the large, wide number, despite the fact that they would only deliver one or two or three. The ones that deliver 9, 10, they are lesser in number. They are hardly eating. Yet you have very large number of goats and sheep and rams, far much more than the number of dogs that you have. Even in the parts of the world where people are crazy about dogs. People take dogs like they take their children in some parts of the world. May Allah protect us. No sane Muslim will do that. The Muslim will take a dog maybe for hunting, if he goes hunting. The Muslim will take a dog for security purposes or for farm use. Yes, but as a pet in the house, no. It is prohibited for us as Muslims. And it is also prohibited to eat dogs. It is prohibited for a Muslim to eat dogs. All these are from the prescriptions of our religion, Al-Islam. Yet, we don't eat them. We don't take them. They deliver in large numbers. Yet, the number of those animals we eat, the number of those animals we slaughter daily and eat daily, and we slaughter a large number of them during festivities. Allah has given large barakat, blessings to these animals. They serve as a means of regular, ready, steady meal for us across the world. Ibn Abbas looked at this and he considers it as a sign for us to think about. That inna fiha barakah. These animals, al-ganam, the goats, the sheep, the rams, all of these is possible about them because they have barakat. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam then encouraged us, ittakhidhul ganam fa inna fiha barakah. Take to taking care of goats, take to taking care of sheep, fa inna fiha barakatan, because they contain a lot of barakat. In another hadith he said, فَإِنَّهَا مِن دَوَابِ الْجَنَّةِ, because these goats are from the animals of Al-Jannah. In another hadith he said, وَالسَّكِينَةُ فِي أَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ, those who take to goats and care for goats, for rams, it is from the aspects of these, the blessings they gain is what? As-sakina. They gain rest of mind. I hope that this hadith is clear. Abdullah ibn Abbas looked at the creatures of Allah and he took a lesson to further understand that hadith of the Prophet, that these goats, these ganam, they have a lot of barakat. Likewise, the camels and the horses. The camels and the horses also have barakat. They have barakat. We ride on the camels, they walk in the farm. Likewise, the horses. We climb both the camels and the horses. In the times when there were no cars, they were the animals with which they fought wars. They went to wars with them. They climbed on the horses, on the camels to travel long distances. We take from their meals, we take from their milk, the milk of the camels, the meat of the camels, and all of these, like Allah told us variously in the Quran, they are means of blessings for us. So this hadith makes us understand that when you have livestock, when you have camels, when you have goats, when you have rams, they are means of blessings for us. Instead of taking to dogs, don't take dogs. Buy goats, buy camel, keep a horse, because inshallah we are also coming back to the horses and how they are also a means of barakat. The Prophet told us in a clear-cut hadith also regarding the horses. The horses are also a means of barakat. We'll come back to that inshallah in this book, Al-Adab Al-Mufrad by Al-Imām Al-Bukhāri. I think we can move to the next hadith, hadith 575. We will move to the next hadith, hadith 576. In it, Al-Imām Al-Bukhāri said, rahimahullah, حدثنا قبيصة قال حدثنا وهب بن إسماعيل عن محمد بن قيس عن أبي هند الهمداني عن أبي الظبيان قال قال لي عمر بن الخطاب يا أبا ظبيان كم عطاؤك؟ قلت 2500. قال له يا أبا ظبيان اتخذ من الحرث والثابياء من قبل أن تليكم جلمة قريش لا يعد العطاء معهم مالا. اتخذ من الحرث والثابياء من قبل أن تليكم جلمة قريش لا يعد العطاء معهم مالا. Al-Imām Al-Bukhari rahimahullah has reported this hadith from his Shaykh Qabisah ibn Uqbah. He has reported this hadith from his Shaykh Qabisah ibn Uqbah, Abu Amir al-Kufi. In the print of Shaykh As-Sa'di, Abdullah ibn Abdur-Rahman As-Sa'd al-Sa'd, he said this hadith has come from Qutaybah. I think it's an error from the printers. This hadith is the hadith of Qabisah ibn Uqbah. The reason I mention things like this is that a brother can have with him the copy of Shaykh Abdullah ibn Abdurrahman al-Sa'd, and then he begins to comment at the time of questions. Why have we mentioned it from Qabisah when it was from Qutaybah? It is the hadith of Qabisah ibn Uqbah, Abu Amir al-Kufi, and not Qutaybah. It is Qabisah, not Qutaybah. Wallahu a'lam. Qabisah too, he said, حدثنا وهب ibn Ismā'īl. Wahab ibn Ismā'īl, he is Abu Muhammad al-Kufi, and he was reporting it from Muhammad ibn Qais Abu al-Hakam al-Kufi, who was reporting from Abu Hind al-Hamdani, al-Harith ibn Abdur-Rahman, and Abi-Dhabiyan. Abu-Dhabiyan is a well-known from amongst the Tabi'un. Abu-Dhabiyan was well-known from amongst the Tabi'un. His name was Hussein ibn Jundub. Hussein ibn Jundub. And if you look at it, you see that this hadith is musalsalun bil kufiyin. This isnad is sanadun musalsalun bil kufiyin. The first person, Qabisah, was from the scholars of Kufa. Wahab ibn Ismā'īl was from the scholars of Kufa. Muhammad ibn Qais was from Kufa. Abu Hind al-Hamdani, al-Harith ibn Abdur-Rahman was from Kufa. And Abu Dhabiyan was also from the scholars of Kufa. Abu Dhabiyan was the one who met Umar ibn al-Khattab. Umar said to him, he said, قال لي عمر بن الخطاب. Umar ibn al-Khattab said to me, Ya Aba Dhabiyan, O Abu Dhabiyan, Kam ata'uk, how much are you giving? Because those days, when people fought wars, they go for jihad. They are enlisted in the army, and the government provides gifts for them or provides them money, perhaps monthly. Take this, take this. So these monies that are given to those who are enlisted for jihad, whenever there is jihad, they go out for jihad. That money is called what? Ata'u. So that was what he was asking. Kam ata'uk. How much is the grant that you receive from the government monthly? This is evidence, the scholars say this is evidence that your head, your teacher, your scholar, a learned person can ask his student, how much do you receive per month? How much do you receive? Omar asked Abu Dhabiyan, Kam ata'uk, how much is your grant monthly? like asking, how much is your salary monthly? They can ask that question. Of course, because they have a relationship that would make Umar radiallahu anhu ask him that question. Don't forget, Umar was Amirul Mu'mineen. He was the head of the entirety of the Ummah. So if he asked any unit of the Ummah about a question like this, he would not think that his privacy is being busted by the head of the Muslims. I don't think there is anyone that the President Bola Tinubu would call, say, hey, how much is your salary? And he will say, Mr. President, why are you asking me that question? So you should not find that kind of a question as a far-fetched question. The Imam in your masjid, the head of the Muslims in your community, can ask that kind of a question. How much do you earn? He can ask you. More so when we know them to be people of honor and respect, who want goodness for us. They can ask us that question. And it does not imply that our privacies are infringed upon. Umar ibn al-Khattab asked Abdur-Raūf, Kam ata'uk? How much is your grant? Qultu, Abdur-Raūf answered, he said, I said, Alfani wa khamsumi'a. My grant is 2,500. That is 2,500 dirhams. Usually when they mention costs like this, because you can't easily find 2,500 gold coins. So what is easily found that the people traded upon easily was dananir. It is not, it was the dinar, the silver coins. It's not, the dirham is not something that's easily found. The silver coins is what you find regularly. But as for the gold coins, it is more rare to find the people trade or being given the gold coins. So the most appropriate thing that he has been given was 2,500 silver coins. If today 200 silver coins, which is the nisab of zakah for the silver, will be about 900,000 naira. So you can calculate how much that was at that time, that those who were enlisted in the army would get per month, 2,500. They got 2,500. That's a lot of money if you compare it to our own currency today. A lot of money. 900,000 is 200. The man gets 2,500. It's a lot of money. So Umar ibn al-Khattab said, radiyallahu anhu, to Abdur-Raūf after hearing how much Abdur-Raūf would gain from his grant. Umar said to him, Ya Abdur-Raūf, O Abdur-Raūf, اتخذ من الحرث من الحرث والسابياء اتخذ من الحرث والسابياء اتخذ من الحرث. Take a farmland, acquire a farmland. Omar advised the man with a lot of money, Afa, look for a farmland. Go and take to farming. Wasabiya, and get into livestock. Get into farming. Get into raising livestock. Asabiya refers to those animals that when they move, other animals move together with them. So it became to be used as a term generally for taking to livestock. Go and rear camels. Go and rear goats. Go and rear sheep. This is the Amir of the people of Iman, Umar, encouraging someone who earned as much as we had mentioned. How much will that be? Over 11 million naira. Someone earns over 11 million naira per month. Omar is still telling him, go and look for a farm and get livestock. Look for a farm, get a livestock. If a government says that today to the rest of the people, they say this government is a bad government. Why is he telling people to get to farm? Omar said it, radiallahu anhu, to Abu-Dhabiyan. So one of the ways to keep wealth, one of the ways to multiply your wealth is to take to farming and livestock rearing. One of the ways to keep your wealth, one of the ways to multiply your wealth, one of the ways to invest is to take to farming and livestock rearing. Because you see this investment. One of the scholars say people now invest in things they don't see. People invest their money today in things they don't see it. They don't know anything about it, except what they are told by some men in shirts and trousers. They are told that in text messages and emails. You don't know what you have put your money into. You don't have any idea about it directly, except what you are told. But the man who has perhaps a car lot, he bought cars with his money. He is seeing the money on the ground, whether the cars are sold or not. The man who invests his money in livestock, he bought 1,000 heads and he has 10 people taking care of these animals. Each of the 10 persons are paid salary every month. He knows where his animals are. In fact, by the heads of the animal right in the farm that day, he can calculate the amount of money that he has because he can choose to sell all of them. So he's seeing the investment. The investment is real, is genuine. He's seeing the money, how the money becomes multiplied. How it becomes from 100 heads to 200 heads of livestock, from 200 to 1,000. He's seeing the multiplication. Or birds, if it is in poultry, because this narration is in the meaning of that too. He's seeing it. He can calculate it. He can count the heads. And if something happens to these animals, he's seeing it. He knows it. He can work to curtail whatever is happening to those animals. If they need doctors, he will bring doctors. If they need to change their food, he changes their food. So he's right there in his investment. He's directly interested. He's directly involved in his money and what is happening to his money. This is the kind of thing that is most encouraged. You invest in things that you see, you control, you know it. You know what goes, you know what comes behind, you know how it goes, you know how it comes. This is clear cut. He's seeing the investment. He knows it. He sees it. He controls it. When there's a problem, he's seeing that problem. When there's a loss, he knows the reason for the loss. When the animals die or something happens, disease comes, he knows what to do. He knows what not to do. When some of those animals pass away and die, he sees it. He knows it. The same thing on the farmland. He grew the farm. He employed people to work in the farm. He's seeing the farm. He goes and comes back. He sees what grows in the farm. He harvests from the farm. In all of these, he finds it easy to pay his zakah on al-ghanam or zakah on al-ibil or the zakawat on the grains at the times of harvest and in all of these. So it is easier, it's a clear-cut investment. He sees the money. He sees how the money grows. He sees how the property grows. It is not in a virtual, sometimes fictitious numbers sent to them. No, he sees it. This is the kind of clear-cut, direct investment that Umar ibn al-Khattab encouraged the person. These days when governments encourage people to farm and take to livestock, such governments are insulted, they are abused, people say a lot of things about them. People who in the past have been very rich, clearly rich, we see what they did to become rich. They've come to become rich from these angles, largely from these angles. They buy, sell, or they go into production itself, either livestock production or plant production. So Umar ibn al-Khattab encouraged this man who earned over 11 million monthly in Naira equivalent. Even at that time, that money was a big money. He said, invest that money now, so to speak. Umar ibn al-Khattab said, يا أبا ظبيان اتخذ من الحرث والسابياء من قبل أن تليكم غلمة قريش. Invest this money من قبل أن تليكم غلمة قريش, before kids, children amongst Quraysh begin to become your heads and rulers. So he was talking about keeping the money, multiplying the money before a time will come when that money will not continue to come as it was coming. Min qabli an talikum, because there are some people, Gilma to Quraysh, they are children amongst Quraysh. Children. When children become your heads, when children become rulers. Today you'd say the elders should sit down, they want to rule. The early Muslims used to make isti'adha. Na'udhu billahi min imarati as-Tibyān. They used to ask for Allah's protection from young people becoming heads, rulers. Young boy, he's the ruler of the people. He's one controlling the people. He's controlling those who are in the age of his father and his grandfather. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, he said, Min qabli an talikum gilmatu Quraysh. Invest your money, O Abu Zabian. Invest it in agriculture, livestock production. Min qabli an talikum gilmatu Quraysh. Before a time when little children in amongst the Quraysh will be the ones who become your heads. These people, when they become your heads, لا يعد العطاء معهم مالا. لا يعد العطاء معهم مالا. In their times, those grants will not be counted as anything. It will not count as wealth. Those grants they will give you as someone enlisted for jihad. لا يعد. Most young people in governance, and that's what you find people in governance, they are worse than the elders that they criticize. Go to student union government in schools. Go to departmental organizations in schools. Go to faculty organization. Young boys, undergraduates. You see how they pillage the wealth of their fellow students. Go to student union governments. You see how they go about lavishing the money that they have from fellow students. The flamboyance that they criticize a man who controls billions from a country's resources. They control some young millions and then they lavish. When he controls billions, will he not lavish? So young people are like that, and they have always been like that. So the early Muslims will always make isti'adha. Na'udhu billahi min imarat as-Tibyān. Min imarat as-Tibyān means the rulership of young people. Leading is for the elders. They are more experienced. Like I read recently, the head of the country was saying that, look, my friend, I'm already rich. So I'm not coming to become rich again. I want to do something good. Young people do not have this kind of a mindset. They don't have. Yes, you can find some young people who do well in governance, but largely young people, they only want to live in comfort and luxury. It's usually a common thing. So Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu advised Abu Zabian. He said, اتخذ من الحرث والسابياء من قبل أن تليكم جلمة قريش. Take to farming, take to livestock production. من قبل أن تليكم جلمة قريش. Before a time when little young kids, gilma, young person, very young, newborn, little kids will become the heads of the people. At that time, لا يعد العطاء معهم مالا. During their times, لا يعد العطاء مالا. The grants that will come to you every month, لا يعد مالا. It will not be considered as any reasonable wealth. Perhaps because it will be small, or that it will be delayed. So you will not see it as something that you earn, either because it will be too small, or that it will be delayed, or that even when it is given to you, inflation will not make it useful. So you will not think that you are gaining anything. Now, these 2,500 silver coins that you gain is a lot of money, but at that time it will become useless, perhaps because of inflation, or that because it will not be given regularly, or that it will be given regularly, but it will not amount to anything in the real sense of it. So Omar said, he advised him, go and take to farming. So at that time you have something to live upon. At that time you have something to get busy with. I hope that this point is clear. This comes under the chapter heading that Al-Iblu Izzun li Ahliha. Keeping camels and generally speaking, keeping livestock is a means of honor, it's a means of power, it's a means of influence. So when Omar advised the man to take to livestock production, it's a means of guarantee of wealth and an encouragement to preserve your honor tomorrow, at a time when that money will be meaningless. You will have livestock, you will have farmlands that you have grown, and you have a means of survival between yourself and the rest of your household. I think that this hadith is clear, inshallah, and the connection between it and the chapter heading that Al-Ibilu Izzun li Ahliha, that's keeping camels and generally speaking, keeping livestock is a means of strength. It's a means of honor for those who keep them. The last hadith on this chapter is a hadith that I would not like us to rush over. Bismillah, I think we can continue from that in the next class together with the next chapter, inshallah. I think we can stop here today to take a few questions that we may have regarding the narrations that we read today. Abdur-Rahman.
أحسن شيخنا جزاكم الله خير شيخ. أحسن الله عليك.
أمين وياكم. طيب أبا عامر how are you?
الحمد لله.
نعم مرحبا.
I have a couple of questions. The first one is, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Shaykh. How should we clean our clothes if dog spittle falls on it? How should we clean our clothes if dog spittle falls on it?
If the spittle of a dog falls on the cloth, we clean it as we clean the cloth if urine or feces falls on it, because they are essentially najis or najasat. So you clean it as other kinds of najasat fall on it. You wash it, get clean water. You wash it properly, and that would suffice, inshallah. You clean it as you clean menstrual blood, or the blood of nifas, or urine, or feces. The same way you clean all of these, that is the way you clean a cloth that the spittle of a dog falls upon. They are all from najasat. But if the spittle of a dog falls on a container, there's a clear-cut directive from the Prophet ﷺ that we wash them off. We start with the sand. We use the sand to make the first washing, and then we wash it, clean it 7 times, ensuring that the place is cleaned properly. That is regarding the containers. But as for our clothing, the spittle of a dog is najis from an-najasat. We clean it from the clothes in the way we clean other najasat from the clothes. I hope that it is clear.
نعم شيخنا جزاكم الله خير.
آمين وأنتم فجزاكم الله خير.
Now, the next question reads, okay. Please, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Please, Shaykh, what are the rulings of the kafir entering the masjid? We normally see, especially amongst the elites, coming into the masjid, into the masajid to attend the Aqdul Nikah of their fellow Muslim friends.
It is not wrong that a non-Muslim comes into the masjid for a thing of benefit. It is not wrong that a non-Muslim, whether a Christian or a Jew, enters a masjid for a benefit. Maybe to listen to a lecture, maybe to attend, like you said. If he attends, especially the way we conduct nikahs these days, if he attends a masjid, he comes into the masjid for a nikah, most likely, that nikah will have a lecture. That nikah will have a nikah lecture. What remains for us is that when you make a nikah and you want to do a lecture, get a lecturer who is a reasonable person who will tell you about the Quran and the Sunnah. Get someone who will discuss the Quran, who will discuss the Sunnah. Most of those people bring to lectures these days, they begin to sing poems, and then the entirety of the atmosphere becomes what is happening. But if the atmosphere is calm and sedate for a lecture, because the atmospheres are different. The atmosphere of celebration is different from the atmosphere of learning. So when people celebrate and they bring a window in the celebration for a lecture, they should sit down to listen to the lecture, because it is the word of Allah being recited. It is the narrations from the Prophet ﷺ being recited. So when the atmosphere is calm and sedate like this for a lecture, with a lecturer that's a person of good knowledge and the Sunnah, then a non-Muslim coming into the masjid will be a thing of benefit. He will learn one or two things about Islam. Unfortunately, what most Muslims do in the masjid when they do marriages is that they even forget about Islam. You see women come into the masjid for nikah not well dressed. You see even the bride may not be well dressed. They wear wedding gowns that expose them. They wear wedding gowns requiring jalabi, hibs, and things like this. It is not appropriate. We present Islam badly during our weddings. We forget about Islam. Someone has told me before that it is a wedding. Let's forget these rulings of Sharia. So you forget about Allah because you are doing a wedding. So because we do many things that are inside Islam unlawful during weddings. So when you bring a non-Muslim, what does he want to come and see? What you are showing him in the masjid during your weddings, is that Islam? You see men and women mixed together. Nonchalance comes up during most wedding celebrations. So when you bring a non-Muslim to that gathering, what do they see of you Muslims? Tomorrow you bring the Quran and the Sunnah to show to them. And what they see of you is a complete contradiction of the same Quran and the Sunnah that you brought to them tomorrow. Even a sister who wears jilbab in the university, on the days of her wedding, she throws away the jilbab. You see them in funny dresses that you cannot imagine that some of our young girls can dress in. Parents too contribute to this kind of deviation. So if you bring a non-Muslim to the masjid in your marriage, let it be that you want to show him Islam. Don't let it be that it is that marriage where you want to leave aside the rulings of Islam. So if the situation is like this and a non-Muslim comes, he sees how sedate, how calm, how nice, how mannerly we behave even during our celebrations, then this is good for him. It is good for him. It is good for him. It will encourage him upon Islam. So this is what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did with the non-Muslims when they came to the masjid. They made a lot of benefits from that. I hope that is clear about Amr.
نعم شيخنا جزاكم الله خير.
Ameen.
Next question is, sir, please, how should in between the fingers be washed while making wudu? Should the small finger be used to wash in between the fingers, or should the fingers be interlocked to wash them? Jazakumullah.
When we wash the hands during wudu, the fingers, all the fingers should be used to wash, or the right hand should be used to wash the left, and the left to right, like that together. As we wash our hands as if we want to eat food, we wash with the two hands, having the fingers of both hands go in between them like that, left and right. It is when we wash our feet, the legs, when we wash in between the fingers of our feet, that we employ the small finger of the left hand. The small finger of the left hand is the one that goes in between the fingers of the feet. The small finger of the left hand, we put it in between the fingers when we wash the feet. But when we wash the hands, we should use both hands, from the fingers from both hands, to rub in between the fingers of both hands. I hope that is clear.
نعم شيخنا صلوات الله عليكم. The next one reads, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah preserve Shaykh in all goodness. When has zakah been mandatory to a person rearing animals for wealth or as a means of livelihood?
Can you come back again with this question, please?
No, Shaykh. When has zakah become mandatory on a person rearing animals for wealth or as a means of livelihood?
Whatever the purpose for your rearing those animals, once they reach particular numbers, then zakah becomes compulsory on them. The scholars refer to them as zakatul mashia sometimes, with a general name. And when they come specific, they say zakatul ganam, the zakat that is due on your ganam. The ganam are the goats, the ganam are the sheep, the ganam are the rams. So likewise, if it were camels, they say zakatul ibil, zakah connected to camels. If they are cows, al-baqar, they say zakatul baqar. So each of these group of animals, they have particular numbers that they must reach, that makes it compulsory for you, the owner of it, to remove zakah from it. For example, if it were camels, when you have 5 camels, if you have 5 camels, the zakah on 5 camels is a shart. You give a sheep in zakah. If you have 5 camels, you give a sheep in zakah. If you have, let's say, up to 20, meaning that you have 5, 5, 5 in 4 places, upon every 5 camels that you have, you give a sheep. Meaning that if you have 20 camels, how many sheep will you give, or rams or goats? You give 5. You give 4. 1 upon every 5. But when your camels reach 25, if you have 25 camels, you give what they refer to as ibnatu makhad. You give the small camel, the one that the mother is pregnant. You give a camel. That camel, the mother of that camel is pregnant. That is the camel you give. If all your camels are now 25, it is called ibnatu makhad, and so on and so forth. If it is zakatul ganam, if it is the ganam, the goats, the sheep, once your goats number 40, you must give zakah. If you have 40 heads of goats or sheep or rams, You give one of them in zakah. You give 1 out of 40. And if you have 121, if you have up to 121, وَفِيهَا shatan, you give 2 sheep. All of these are in the books of fiqh regarding zakawat. Likewise, the grains, likewise, all of these. So it will mean once you start farming, whether you are farming crops or you are farming livestock, you have to start planning and learning about the applicable aspects of zakah that you remove from it. In that case, it's not about whether 1 year or 2 years. It's about the number of heads of the animals that you have and the quantity of the grains that you have at the time of harvesting. I hope that this is clear. It can always be discussed and expanded upon, inshallah, in lessons on zakat. And these things are hardly discussed. May Allah protect us.
نعم شيخنا صلوات الله عليك.
Ameen wa iyyakum. Can you come with one more question, Abu Amir, and then we call it a day? We spent the time.
نعم شيخنا جزاكم الله خير.
Ameen wa
The question reads, Assalamu alaikum. Please, Shaykh, how do we merge the two? The first is we should live in the city, and also we should rear animals. We need to be involved in its rearing. It's almost impossible together nowadays.
It's not impossible. The biggest farms in the world are owned by people who reside in major cities, not the villagers. The biggest farms in the world, they are owned by people who are residents in Lekki or Aja or Banana Island or Asokoro and Maitama. They have farms. They go back to their farms. They do what they need in the farms and then they come back to the towns. So a place of residence is different from a place of work. We do that even in regular jobs. A doctor may be posted to a remote area. He works there as a doctor. He goes back to town. What is discouraged is taking a residence. This is where I live. This is where my family, wife, children grow up. We are encouraged. We are discouraged from that. But that you have a farm, you go to the farm. In fact, you may need to spend a week in the farm. You may need to spend days. One of our teachers in Cairo, specifically in Alexandria, and specifically in Burj Al-Arab. Burj Al-Arab is about 2 hours drive or thereabout from Alexandria in Egypt. We went to study a book with him. He has a huge farm, huge farm. And most of what we did when we studied Sahih Muslim, we were living in his farmhouse in the farm. We left home. Home is a 3-story building, huge home with a lot of books. But because it was the time he has to be in the farm, we went with him to the farm. We sat down with him in the farm. We cooked in the farm. We cooked together. In fact, he has dogs. He has farm dogs. You see that dog was a very learned dog. Learned. Al-Kalb Al-Mu'allam. There's a brother who may be listening with me. He was present too. So the farmhouse is there. Every convenience is there. You sleep there. You wake up there. You take care of yourselves there. There are workers working in the farm. He was just supervising. So we were reading Sahih Muslim and we were at the same time in the farmland. But that is not the house. That is not the place of reference. And between the house and the farmland was not less than 10 kilometers. So we're in Burj Al-Arab. We now move 10 kilometers into the farm area. So living in the city does not contradict taking a farm or taking to livestock production. They do not contradict themselves at all. Allahu Alam.
شيخنا جزاكم الله خيرا.
آمين وإياكم أبا Can we call it a day today?
نعم يا شيخ. السلام
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. آمين آمين وإياكم.
السلام ورحمة